the tower should be kind of like your safe place, right? It's like if you're having a bad time, your tower's got you. And then all of a sudden, it's like Naafiri's just killing you and then Wing out. And
you just hear the you see the lines over the wall.
Yeah, and it's just like, wait a minute.
You're in your mind palace here, all comfortable, in your lane, in your zone, under your tower, and you just get ripped apart. Hello and welcome back to The Dive, driven by Kia Season 9, Episode number 8. And LTA Split number 2 is finally here. We're going to move on past split number 1. You know, we're going to move on past first stand, at least past the first day.
And keeping that first day.
We're keeping the first day.
First day counts.
First day was good.
We're actually going to frame the first day and put it up on the wall behind us.
We're over 900 days since EU has beaten their number 1 seed.
There you go. But
on 3 years.
I think the biggest news is that split 2 is going to be, I think, more than twice as good as split 1. I would say it's going to be at least 300.
Maybe 3 times as good.
I was going to say at least 300% as good as split 1. There's so many more games. The format is way better. Okay, so the format, since we didn't actually get to leak it last time, we were like trying to leak it.
Yeah, thanks, Mark.
Mark put his foot down. No leaks then. But we're going to start out with the best of ones. And I know people got really adjusted to best of 3s and having best ofs for Fearless, but I do think it's pretty important to have best of 1s at the start, since last split, some of the teams only got 5 games total and then instantly axed. So I think it's a good thing. We're going to be able to see every team play every day for the first 3 weeks. Then we move into those 2 separate groups that are going to be best of 3s. And then that feeds into our best of 5 playoffs, which is going to be a full regular best of 5s, double elimination with Fearless.
Yeah,
it's split 2 is going to be so good.
Yeah, I mean, we were originally split 2. Originally, if you guys didn't know, was supposed to be all best of 1s. That was going to be the original format. So when Fearless became like a permanent thing, that's why there was the adjustment. So yeah, there is still some best of 1s at the start, but best of 1s also, traditionally have been better for viewership because every team plays every day. It's kind of fun for people to be able to tune in and see whatever team they're cheering for every day. So I'm really excited to see how the teams are going to do. Even the teams that are the bottom teams from split 1. Like you said, it's like they played 2 weeks. So split 1 to me kind of felt more like an introductory tournament. Sorry, Mark. And not like a true split. And so split 2 to me, in a lot of ways, feels like the kickoff of LTA, because it's a full real split where all the teams are going to play a lot of games. They added extra days from the intended original format. They added extra games, so everyone's going to get a ton of games. Everyone's going to have the extra show days and stuff as well. We've got a super week even in there to be able to fit everything in. So I think it's going to be really, really cool. And some of these teams that coming into split 1 didn't even have their intended starting roster, like Seos wasn't here, or like Lions had to play remote from Mexico City, I think it was.
Yeah.
Some teams had players arriving and getting a scrim or 2 of practice before they had to play one of their 2 matches. So it's going to be really interesting to see how everyone shakes up. And it's like, sometimes going into summer split, you're like, okay, I've already seen this team get their ass beat all year long. Like, you kind of know what to expect. I feel like it's a little bit of a new year in that way, because I'm actually really excited to see how everyone's doing.
Yeah, I'm super, super happy that they're not doing best of 1s and that Fearless is staying. To me, that's been the biggest thing. Like, as soon as I heard Fearless was staying, I was so happy, because I think it's like the best thing that's happened to a competitive league in a while. It's just so cool to see all the different champs coming out, and drafting is actually it's really hard. It actually shows who's the better team and coach and whatnot when you have these cool drafts. And so I'm super hyped. A lot more games and whatnot. And like you were saying, I think the game quality is just going to be way higher too, because hopefully all these teams have still just been practicing between the split 1 and now, because if any of these teams actually took a break, I would facepalm so unbelievably
You get knocked out in 2 weeks, and you're like, that was pretty tough. Time for
a break. Man, I need a mental health month or something, guys. Yep. I'll be back. I'm gonna be doing anything other than Link not, but hopefully no one's doing that. If so, it will probably be reflected in their performance. So ideally, all these teams will level up. They have their full rosters and whatnot. So I think it's gonna be a banger.
Yeah, definitely super excited for that one. I seen you actually on the league client, like in custom games and stuff too.
Yeah,
like
I've been playing
doing some
Flex
real
too,
drafting.
doing some,
I know we have a Riot tournament coming up, so I'm assuming you're training for that.
Yeah. I'm playing Riot Rumble. I haven't played in a million years. I played way back in the day when I was on playtest and stuff. And I won the Masters Rumble before, and I got to finals and stuff, and it was really fun. And I'm in the top one, the tier 1 Masters one again. But I hadn't played in like 6 years because Riot Rumble, it's the internal tournament for Riot where they do like the top tier one, like does a draft. They have captains and stuff, and then you do regular season and you tournament draft and you do playoffs and all this, and you can win like a jacket and whatever. It's cool. It's kind of like simulating the like a mini tournament experience. But it's always been during Worlds or MSI or something like that, and the format has always been like months long. So now it's like condensed and it's at a time where I can actually play. So I signed up and we're going to play. Gates on my team, which is pretty cool because obviously used to cast him and stuff, and you used to play with him.
Yeah, we were in Optic together.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love Gate. He's a super fun guy. I was curious. So you said you got a jacket for winning the Rumble tournament.
Yeah.
Is it kind of like a flex walking around the office? Like you show up in the cafeteria with like your I got my tier 1 Rumble jacket on. Like, do people give you looks like, oh,
Freak,
yeah, that's him?
Freak would wear his around the office a lot. To me, I was never.
Everyone knows Freak though, but it's like you're this unknown rioter and you pull up and do people just give you like
a lot of people
second glances?
I'll say that. So I think like I have my one that says like Masters Division.
Yeah, I've never seen you wear yours.
I think I wore it
Funny.
once. I think I only wore it once. I do think it's a cool jacket, but I will also say it's like hot as hell. It's like a straight up winter jacket.
It's really thick, yeah.
It's like leather and like it has like lining and stuff. It's a hot jacket, so I think it's kind of too hot for LA, but it is really cool. And definitely a lot of people do wear them around the office as a flex and stuff. So
Nice.
I mean,
like that.
I think it's cool, right? It's like it's just I think kind of giving the experience of competition and stuff for people, and for a lot of the riders, obviously most people have never been like in a real tournament or competed in esports or done anything like that. For me, it's like obviously it's not like pro gaming, but it's really fun, and I've always loved the aspect of like when I was in WoW Pro and when I did StarCraft stuff and whatever games like that. I've always really enjoyed like thinking about ways to get advantages and stuff. And it's like with this, it's kind of like a little simulation of that where you can see, okay, this team plays this and this and this, and like, oh, their top laner is a Jackson Camille specialist, so like what's gonna be good picks I can practice against that or whatever. That stuff is fun, right? And thinking through like what your draft is gonna be and everything. It's just like
it's next level IRL Clash basically.
There you go.
So
yeah,
it's like leveled up a little bit.
Yeah,
That's the best way to play League.
Yeah.
It really is. So
I agree.
That's
by
awesome.
far. It's just League is truly an incredible game. I think played as a group of people with a similar goal, right? And I think solo queue often does not have that.
It's not the best when you hate all your teammates and everyone's trying to like sabotage each other.
If you win every game, it is. But as soon as you lose, it's the worst.
Yeah, true.
So that is the trade-off there. But yeah, I've been having a ton of fun. Kobe, I also saw, you told me you were getting a new tattoo.
Oh yeah, I stayed in Korea a few extra days after first stand.
Yeah.
Because I've been eyeballing this Korean artist for a super long time to get a new tattoo. Because basically whenever I have like a big like life event.
For some reason when you said eyeballing him, all I could see is just like peeking through windows,
Oh my God, this guy's pretty good. That's good art over there, buddy.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was eyeballing his Instagram,
Yeah.
Because I mean, yeah, it's a big commitment, right?
Yeah.
So you got to evaluate for a long time. And whenever I have like a big like life event or like learn a big life lesson, I've come to the process of like getting a new tattoo.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, started really.
So
long
what's the
time ago.
tattoo?
So the tattoo is like a big snake
Do we get to
and
see?
a couple swallows. You can see if you go to my Instagram.
Oh,
I'm
you
pull
don't
up my arm here.
The dive viewers? What about our loving fans on the dive?
If they're truly loving fans, they'll go follow my Instagram. Pump those numbers up. I have the. I mean, it's just awkward to take off the jacket as well as shirt right now.
Yeah.
Because you always have to keep putting Aquaphor on it to heal.
Yeah. It's still healing.
For weeks after. Yeah. But yeah. Got the post up there. I mean, last year I had like a very like strong reminder of some like life lessons that I've already learned and known before, but is some some big family moments that I want to remember.
That's cool.
That left a lasting impression, and it's kind of like something that constantly reminds me like how I want to continue to live my life and move forward. And so I'm super happy with it. The artist. This I wish like I had gotten a lot of my other ones done by this artist.
You look at your other ones, you're like, shit.
But it's like he was really good, really detailed. So I'm extremely happy, and it means a lot. So yeah,
That's
awesome.
hype.
Super.
It feels so good when you are happy with your tattoo because it is spooky getting a tattoo if you're like, oh.
Also, like I have like basically this whole arm is done, and so now I have like it feels like a bit more balanced to have some on the other arm. Yeah. But
I haven't gotten any tattoos yet.
Yeah, not
maybe
yet.
one day.
Yeah,
maybe one day.
You can eyeball his tattoo artist.
On C9, we always said we would get C9 tattoos if we won Worlds.
Yeah.
But we didn't, obviously.
Not yet. You haven't won Worlds yet.
Yeah,
why are you
we
giving
could
up?
still have a comeback.
Yeah.
I see Balls playing sometimes.
Really?
Yeah. So Balls still plays.
Near airports in there. Where's near clouds or
workshop the name.
We'll workshop the name. That was spitballing.
Yeah. You know, maybe. We'll see.
Convinced. Well, maybe if we get some patch changes that buff Zach and Elise and Rek'Sai back.
I actually heard. So I was talking to the C9 guys who just got back from the Korean boot camp, and they said they were getting terrorized by there's some Zach one trick in Korea who's like 2,000 LP, and so
Is it Jungle Zach?
yes,
Okay.
yeah, Jungle Zach. Apparently he plays it like off roll if he has to as well, but. Yeah, it kind of gave me some motivation. I'm like, wait, really? Like, it's winning in Korea, so I might have to do some VOD review, dust it off a little bit, because
That's cool.
I love playing Zach. It's so fun.
I think it's one of the most fun things when you are learning a champion and you find someone who's just like giga smurfing with the champion and watching the VODs, watching their streams or whatever, trying to learn about it. It's fun.
When you find something that you feel like other people don't know, that's one of the best feelings in gaming overall. Kind of like you were talking about earlier with tournaments and stuff. Like I love that feeling. You feel so smart and you want to like keep your secret or whatever, or like feel like you're abusing something. Find some little extra tactic. That's always cool.
Yeah.
And Zach has so many you could go. It's always like, how deep are you going to dip into the like AP or like Magic Shred to be able to like one shot people on the back line? I've seen a lot of people with like proto belt builds and like
So I actually learned 2 new mechanics on Zach that I've never seen before. And one of them is from Proto Belt, where you can act like a lot of people have been doing it because you can cancel his E with the Proto Belt. So like if you're jumping and
midair?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
You can cancel it. So
I've never seen that.
If you have a really terrible jump, you can just like say, nope, just kidding. Then the other one, I found this on like a really random like YouTube video, but apparently if you Q something as Zach and then you start his E, and like if your Q times out mid E, it kind of unlocks your abilities. Like, the way on Lee Sin where like if you W, it like lets you unlock your abilities. And so you can ult during his E. So like as you're jumping, you just start ulting and hitting people on the way.
Oh, that's wild.
So like
I saw that video or that short or something.
Yeah.
Because I saw the exact same thing. And
Yeah.
I'm like, oh.
Yeah, I haven't tried it yet, but I feel like that'd be one of those things. Like if you brought that out on the pro stage and you did that, like people would be so like confused. Because I guarantee nobody would expect Zach to do that.
That'd be insta pause.
They'd pause it, but here's the thing. It's like, okay, if it's not supposed to be in the game, like whatever, Riot can take it out. But okay, look at one of the, in my mind, the best League play of all time is that Canyon play on Lee Sin where he like, he does the like smites off the Silver Spell Shield and like kicks him back. Yeah. And that's literally from a similar mechanic where like if you cancel Lee Sin's W with the Q2, it unlocks his ult to use during his Q, because normally you can't do that.
Where he does the flyby.
Exactly.
Yeah, because normally you can't kick during your Q like that. Yeah. So I think mechanics like that are really cool and allow for skill expression, but that's just me.
I guess since we're all sharing that, like I've been holding on to another really good one, and I didn't want to share it for the longest time because I was waiting. We had a moment where Fiddlesticks was actually seeing play. Yeah. Inspired was playing a little bit. People started playing Fiddlesticks, and I was like, "Oh my god, my moment is coming!" And it's did you know you can actually W flash on Fiddlesticks? And
we saw the same video. I saw this
the
one
chain,
too.
and it will if you do it after ult, then it'll also proc the fear. And I was like, oh my God, this is going to be such a big moment. And nobody ever did it. And it never happened. But like, that is one of those things too.
That's cool.
Where if that happened to you, you'd probably pause too.
Yeah, I would.
If a Fiddlesticks ults over and flashes and you're like, what? I see him. And then you still got feared from the drain going off on you. You would for sure pause. I feel like so many pros would still for sure pause. And that one, I'm like, oh man, that one always feels so good to use. Cause like you think about it too, with the W is a drain. You shouldn't be able to like W flash. It doesn't really like make a lot of sense, but it does.
But it does.
Yeah. I haven't seen that in game, but I saw the clip you're talking.
Yeah. The short. Yeah.
That's cool.
We have a similar algorithm,
Probably.
I think, because we were trying to always find
The algorithm, League of Legends.
secrets.
Lol Dobby.
It wasn't from Dobby.
No.
He is also good. He is also good.
He is good. Yeah. If you like checking out all the like kind of like new Korean, solo queue stuff or whatever.
I like his editing style too. It's just like very clear and straightforward, and it's like good educational content. There's
my
not
only
a
complaint is I wish there was a voice reading it, so I didn't always have to look at it.
That's part of the reason I actually like it.
Sometimes I just want a second monitor or something and just listen to it,
Are you really going to remember it and fully learn and internalize, Azael?
I don't care about that.
Dobby deserves 100% of your undivided attention.
He should get like an AI like Dobby from the Harry Potter elf just reading it off. That'd be so good.
That's cursed. All right. We got the new patch coming up here, 25.7 or 0.07, I guess, is coming out today, or is out, maybe already, I guess. So there's actually a ton of changes in this patch. It is kind of surprisingly pretty big.
Really? I was feeling like, I feel like it's a kind of
a lot of stuff.
I feel like it's kind of a regular one. No, is there no like giant game shifting?
Yeah.
I guess you could say the home guard change recall thing.
It feels like a lot of champions.
It's probably the
but
biggest thing.
Maybe I'm misremembering, or maybe
you know what? I'm down. Yeah, it is big. You're right.
I don't know. I'm scrolling through it. It feels big.
It's a large patch.
More about the feel of the size.
Yeah, exactly. You know what? I'm with you. That is really big, Azael.
Thank you. Exactly. It's a matter of perspective.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely got a lot of changes. Usually, whenever I see patch notes, I think of it totally from the lens of like pro play. It's like how many of the good pro play champs are getting nerfed, and how many of the like potentially pro playable champs are getting buffed. So, I don't know. They're nerfing like Gwen and Naafiri, I think, are the big ones to me, because I think those have a very high chance of showing up in pro play.
Those are the two most broken champions the whole last patch by far, I think, in the game.
Yeah, and they're champs that just show up in pro, because Gwen, for the longest time, her weakness was like her early game. Her early game is just so unplayable, so you could only really pick her into like free matchups. And then they just kind of totally changed that. They did one of those like power redistributions where they make her weak or stronger early and weaker later, but not really.
Her ult doesn't one-shot you, but she still solos your whole team.
Yeah, she's still, Gwen is immune. So,
and the buff that they gave to her, like the ult doesn't one-shot you, but it is 60% slow just on the rank 1 now.
You can't get away.
You like the Gwen just jumps at you and you actually can't get away. So I 100% agree. Those two champs are insane, especially as jungle. I like every single game I've played though in solo queue, both have been banned. I have not had a game where one of those was not banned by either team. I think that these nerfs actually are kind of light for those two champs, considering how strong they are. The Naafiri nerfs are a bit bigger than the Gwen nerfs. Gwen is literally only 10 damage off the final snip and 3 armor and magic resist after W, but they also increased the AP scaling for later for resistances for the W.
Very quickly, that'll be more.
So I think Gwen is still going to be OP, and Gwen is really good in top lane and in jungle as a flex pick. So I 100% agree. Like I think she's still super duper on the menu for pro play. And Naafiri, with the change of making Naafiri's W make you untargetable also, that's the part that made her crazy, because now she's like queen of tower dives and super speed clear.
I was so surprised that her W worked on tower shots, because I swear, every single time they add a champion with some obnoxious tower mechanic, it's just such a problem until it's removed, right? It was like Akali and going invis under turret was completely bizarre. Pantheon's E blocking turret shots. So to me, it feels like one of those things where, you know, like fundamentally for League, the tower should be kind of like your safe place, right? It's like if you're having a bad time, your tower's got you. And then all of a sudden, it's like Naafiri's just killing you and then Wing out. And
You just hear you see the lines over the wall.
Yeah, and it's just like, wait a minute.
You're in your mind palace here, all comfortable, in your lane, in your zone, under your tower, and you just get ripped apart.
Even one of the things that, like, so I'm a big Elise enjoyer, right?
Yeah.
And her reputation, literally since inception, has just been her level 3 tower dives are so unfair. And I've always been a fan of saying, like, okay, what if Repel didn't drop tower aggro? What if, like, it just keeps shooting you in the air, but then, like, you buff her somewhere else? Because it's like getting doped by an Elise is whack, right? That's not fun for anybody. But I guess not. You know, I'm not a game designer, and they want Naafiri to do the same thing. So have fun with your stacked waves and tower dives, guys.
I think that Naafiri one is banned so much. Like, I've been playing a lot lately. I would say Naafiri has a higher than 100% ban rate because usually both teams ban it.
I literally have not played a game on this patch where it got through.
It is crazy. Yeah. And this is
and deserved.
Yeah. When it first came out too, pre-hotfix nerf, it was like so disturbingly overpowered. And now it's gotten hotfix nerfed and now it's getting nerfed again. I still think it's going to be crazy. And I think one of the difficulties with having mechanics like this that are so polarizing, like some people will think it's cool and it's fair. A lot of people are going to hate it. Most people are going to hate it, like the untargetability on the W, is that it becomes so character defining and character warping that often these characters end up having to get kind of nerfed into the ground to like have the power budget for that W. So it's like, you know, obviously they're doing this like mini rework because literally no one played Naafiri ever, right? Like I never even saw this champion on release. People barely played it. So like I get it's cool they got it back in the game, but I do have that concern that it's like people hate the W so much. This champion is going to be so high ban rate, even if it's weak, to the point where it's just going to be like nerfed in the ground and then you're never going to see it again. And like in a couple patches, it's going to be like 46%, 47% win rate Naafiri, and you never think of it ever again.
So if I think back to the original Naafiri when it was released too, it was originally described as being a very straightforward assassin for, you know, like beginner people to begin on assassins, on AD
training
assassins.
Wheels on those
exactly,
dead.
because the original kit is very straightforward, you know, and they're, but now they, you know, I guess the champion wasn't very popular. That's fair, so they want to change something. But then you add something that is one of the is very high skill because it always depends on timing, your untargetability thing. I mean, it's overall it's OP, but it also becomes even more OP if your timing is very good with it, and you're thinking about, you know, what abilities you're going to immune for people. So it also feels like it's kind of like done away with that kind of early classification of the champ of being like, I always thought of it as like an entry level to like, oh, if I want to become like a Zed player or, you know, some other like melee AD assassin player or something, I'll start with Naafiri.
So you get the picture book
exactly,
before you try to read.
You got the training wheels and you got your whole bunch of friends with you all the time with your little doggies all around. Everybody's, yeah. And so now it's like,
I hate the dogs, by the way. They are so annoying.
Just block all the skill shots.
Block all the skill shots. I've been playing a lot of Gragas lately. Oh my god, it is so annoying. If she hits you with the Q, you can't even body slam away because your body slam hits behind too. Yeah. So you literally cannot body slam. And you also can't body slam flash her because the dogs always trail behind her. And so you always will like bump into them first unless you can get really close and like flash forward on top of her model, like beyond the dogs. It's like, and then you press R and she just W's it and immunes it. It's like, this champion is so annoying for champions with skill shots. One of my friends was playing Lux, and he was playing Lux against Naafiri, and it's like there kept being like both dogs would eat a binding, and then Naafiri would be unbound and stuff. Like, it is crazy for skill shots.
Yeah, and the one of the changes that stands out to me, I don't know what you guys think about it, is like her Q's doing full damage to minions again, which I want to say on release, I don't know if it did full damage or almost full damage, but like she can do crazy wave clear with that. I think before it was like level 5, she could one-shot the ranged minions. With
can't
just
you
two
just
Qs.
go Tiamat and just one-shot the wave instantaneously in Rome?
Probably. Yeah, I don't know. I could totally see this change making her like a really, really good flex pick too. So probably still going to be super strong. It'd be cool to see her in pro though. Like I think I think with Fearless, it's really likely she'll go through at some point.
Yeah, I mean,
she
it
got
is
played in
already being
LPL.
played.
She got played. She's already getting played in the leagues that
LEC
are
as well.
playing before us. So
Yeah. It's already 29 games so far, all in jungle,
All wins.
all wins, 62% win rate. Not that that really means that much, but still.
That's pretty good.
Yeah.
Yeah, I will say, because it always sounds super negative when we're like harping on OP champs like this. The positive side is I queued it up and I played it. Into Flexi. I literally, I think I only, previous to this iteration of Naafiri, I had only played the champ like 1 or 2 times. When it first came out.
I played literally one
And I was
custom
like,
game, learned the abilities. So I was
boring.
like, nope,
But
no sir.
I queued it up though after the buffs, and I had instantly my very first game. I had a lot of fun. I just full cleared, and I went for my first gank. I just went by mid lane. Like I wasn't gonna kill him or anything, but I just jumped in, shot. I hit both Qs. And I did like 400 or 500 damage almost to this mid laner.
I like that. That seems good.
As a level 4, because all the dogs go over and they're biting them too. And the second Q is this execution damage on top of it. I was just like, I didn't even really try and gank that hard. I just kind of passed through. And,
Accidental first blood.
And,
Oops.
hit him. Yeah, I didn't actually kill him, but I was like, well, I just kind of won your lane for you there, though.
Yeah.
No, right? You just got a whole bunch of damage. So, yeah. And then once you start feeling smart about your W timing, saving your W when you're ulting in the late game, you usually save your W unless you're trying to go one-shot somebody. Save your W in the late game so you can just ult in. You can use it to avoid their counter, basically. After you're in there, you kill whoever's in the back line, and you get your ult reset, and you can try and either W or ult
Almost
reset to reposition type of stuff. It actually feels really fun. Surprise, surprise, to be in the driver's seat of something that's so strong.
It almost has an 80% win rate in LPL, by the way. 78.6%. Only 14 games, but still, it's owning.
I mean, last I looked in Masters Plus, it was the highest win rate jungle.
Doesn't surprise me at all.
So
yeah, that champion did.
Yeah, I wonder though, sometimes when things are that strong, it's because Naafiri's not that hard to play, right? It's she's pretty straightforward. So I feel like people playing Naafiri are going to figure it out, but maybe the counters to her, if there are any, haven't really been discovered yet since it's so new. So I could see, maybe there's some things that make it really hard for her to play.
I still think CC heavy champions enchanters and stuff can make it's always difficult for assassins, right? If you're playing as Lulu or something, you jump in there, you get polymorphed, still get one shot.
it's not a lot of counterplay to the W thing. Maybe we got to figure something out for that.
What about
that W?
What about the rest of the patch though? Do you guys think some of these other changes? When you're talking about champions that could touch pro, obviously Gwen definitely think could be in there. Brand got the passive buff. Yone got some little changes where, well, I don't know how little you consider it, but when you E back, you stay CC'd. If you get hit by a CC and you time your E, you'll be CC'd on the other side. Also got a crit buff though, so his passive doesn't have the reduced crit damage. Ivern got a buff because it's obviously not very strong in solo queue, but 0.4 seconds.
That Ivern one seems
on
huge.
rank 1 E, yeah.
A 1.2 seconds to a 1.6 is actually so massive because in Mike's,
do you already max W second? Because
you max
I
shield.
thought it was usually
no, but I mean
EQ.
second. E would be
second.
first, but what would be second? Because I was thinking wouldn't Q just become a 1 wonder then?
It could. I'm not sure.
It still scales.
I'm not a huge
decently,
Ivern
But
player
1.6
myself.
to 2. That
Yeah.
doesn't feel like that much. I just don't know what the rank up incentive for Ivern is. I literally never play Ivern, so I was just curious because sometimes those buffs can be even stronger than they seem if it allows you to change your skill order, right? And get more benefit somewhere else. But maybe it is still just E to Q.
Yeah, it doesn't.
The on-hit damage
look
from
like-
W is not that.
So it's probably still just,
I wouldn't.
There was a time when the on-hit damage from W was really big, but
yeah, when people were doing
they
the
nerfed it a
PTA
long
and
time
stuff,
ago,
yeah.
Yeah, but it's still going to be a huge buff for his early game because as far as follow-up CC, to me, I've always felt like 1.5 was kind of like the magic number where if your CC was 1.5 seconds, it would make it so you could pretty reliably chain things off of it, right? Because sometimes the champion CC would go from I remember, I think it was an older iteration of Skarner, where his E shot out the thing and then you autoed it.
Yeah.
I think it started as a 1.5 second stun and it was so broken because you chain everything off of it. It got nerfed to a 1 second. And now all of a sudden it's way more inconsistent. You try to chain CC it. And
It's literally new Skarner's E as well, right? He was 1.5
Yeah.
and they got nerfed down to 1, I think, now for the E slam.
yeah. So I think that's a huge deal because going from 1.2 to 1.6 is that's way easier to chain things off of. Like Ivor's already pretty good. I think
in pro for sure.
I think he'll just be everywhere.
Yeah.
It's probably one of those things where you're gonna have to be able to play him.
100%. I think the other one, or the other two that I had for pro play on my radar was, especially with Fearless, I think Shen with the Q working on towers is actually so good because you actually can do some damage to towers instead of doing basically 0 damage to towers and have some real like normal split push threat. Split pushing isn't like that crazy or anything, but you know, like you always think of Impact Shen or something like that. With Fearless, Shen definitely is a possibility. One that I think a lot of people have not seen in a long time and probably don't have their eyes on though, Trundle getting pillar buffs. Pillar is like such a sleeper OP ability. Sometimes in pro play, when Trundle was meta, people would be like not even fully maxing Q before putting more points into E because of how OP it is for like poke comps and stuff. And they're buffing the slow and the cooldown. So I could very much see like a smart coach, you know, building some sort of, you know, poke comp with a Trundle, and like you can spam your pillars.
Are you thinking jungle Trundle or like,
I mean,
or top or support
I have,
or what?
since it hasn't been played in super long, I'm thinking top lane, but like it's always obviously better if you can flex. But Trundle's jungle right now, like the clear speed, he's still very single target. So I have to get in there and test. But ideally, it would be a flex pick. But even if it's just a one roll type of thing, I feel like the Pillar of Filth is actually, or now it's a Pillar of Ice since the rework, but it's actually so
8
good.
short years ago, or whatever it was.
It's, I mean, it's a lot of the skins, it's still a Pillar of Filth to me.
Fair.
So I just think that ability is so strong in coordinated play.
Yeah.
And it's like really underestimated because it's not hard CC, but it's very, very difficult to play around a lot of the time for a lot of enemy champions.
Like you said, with Poke for sure.
The role that, because like I played a ton of Trundle when I was playing, he was like a big staple pick. He was always really good into anti-tanks. Like when Sejuani had her crazy passive before with Aftershock, it would be like if you hit Sejuani with Trundle's ult while she had her buffs and then her buffs disappeared, she would go to like negative armor MR, which was really fun. I'm not so sure he's going to be played though, because like the buffs on Pillar, they are something, but I feel like he's so far from being viable right now. Like this champion has literally not been played in years.
That's why he's sleeper. So if you sleeper,
but like there's
Fearless,
no reason you try playing him, and you're just like, my God,
that's what I was
this is
gonna say.
awful.
But if you go deep in Fearless,
I could see a situation.
Canyon actually did pull out a Trundle Game 5 last year, and it was horrible.
I could see a situation.
but he did pull it out.
True.
But like I'm with Meteos because I've been playing a ton of top lane lately, and I used to play a lot of Trundle, and I was like, Trundle, maybe I'll bring out my boy. And there's like no one plays tanks anymore. There's not a single good matchup for Trundle in the game anymore. It feels like because it's when you look at pro.
People have been playing Ornn and stuff sometimes, but
well, okay, let's look at
picking. Yeah,
presence for pro right now: Rumble, Jace, Gwen, Mbessa, Renekton, Jax. It's like, who do you want to play it into, right? That's the tough thing is I feel like there's not a lot of good champions.
That's why we have Fearless, boys.
Yeah. I mean, if you
I'm
not saying
maybe
it's gonna be better.
I think with a few, I think he's at the start of his buff arc. You know, we might get something like Nasus where they're
He's
so
powering
bad,
up.
and then they get 20 consecutive buffs, then all of a sudden they're
it's
crazy.
only episode 1 of the Trundle Shonen.
Bite is now AOE in like a 600 radius.
He's in there for jungle then.
He's got a massive
There we-
mouth, 600.
We actually just one shot every wave. He's godlike.
yeah. I mean, I don't know. He is really good against immobile carries. You know, like if you try to play Jinx against Trundle, it's just so annoying. Like, oops, I got next to the wall and I'm pillared, knocked into him. Now I have to flash.
Yep.
So, you know, I think maybe it's the start of his buff arc.
There you go. And Xerath got buffed, so it works perfectly with Kobe's comp that he's building.
Genius.
The Yorick changes are really interesting. I used to play a lot of Yorick. I haven't played a lot of Yorick in a long time, though, honestly, because I just feel like the game this season has been all about objectives. So it's like split push, I just think is not as good as it used to be because it just feels like you have to group for Soul, you have to group for Grubs, you have to group for Otacon, you just have to group. So I'm going to be interested to see how all of these changes work out. I mean, the general thought process with this is that they're like, my understanding is they're trying to push him away from just having to like walk down a side lane the whole game and being able to fight more. You get more graves from just minions dying around you. You get graves from just hitting champions with Q and stuff.
And jungle monsters.
So you don't just have to be like, previously you had basically just be like last hitting and you didn't even want to trade with your Q a lot of time in lane. It was better to just get push and get the graves and then use your E to trade, right? So this kind of changes the way it works a little bit, and it'll be interesting to see if he can actually function as like a real juggernaut and just kind of like bring the mate into a 5v5 and just fight. Because I feel like Yorick has always been absolute garbage at team fights, like horrible in team fights. So it'll be interesting to me if it actually does kind of like accomplish that goal. Because obviously the general idea is that E is going to be kind of weaker, like the ghouls and stuff are going to be a little bit weaker, but you yourself are stronger and you're able to kind of like scrap more heavily and just like function as a more regular juggernaut, I guess.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to see that one in play. There's so many changes. I think it's a hard one to just look at and instantly be able to like judge how good it's gonna be. But yeah, it'd be cool if you could actually team fight.
Yeah.
I think the Nexus turret respawning is what hurts split pushers the most. Like I tried playing Camille and I was split pushing and it's like you take out a Nexus turret and then it's just back in like 3 minutes. It's like you recall or die or whatever, and then the next time you're back in their base, it's just there again. That is so hard to split push. But I'm for it. Losing to split push is a pretty terrible fate. So
yeah,
I think champs should have to interact with other champs.
I actually really like the Nexus turret respawning thing because it felt horrible when you'd like losing Nexus turrets. I don't know, some like AD sign is just dying over and over and killing towers in zombie form or Trundle or whatever it was, and then you're just glued to your base for the entire rest of the game and you can never leave. It just felt horrible. So yeah, I actually really like the Nexus towers respawning. But yeah, no, it'll be cool to see how Yorick works.
Personally, I hope that he is not good. But looking at these changes and these numbers, I think that like there's a good chance like Riot. They have made a lot of junglers just like OP by making kind of similar types of changes like this, where they just make them like really fast clear.
Yeah.
To me, and this is just a personal view, I don't really enjoy Yorick's kit as far as like I like either being fast or having a dash or something myself. And Yorick just kind of walks around like and puts up his annoying little circle cage.
What if you weren't fast or have a dash?
Yeah, exactly. And so so it's one of these champs where I know that I'm just going to be like salty either way because I don't really want to play it. But if it's really strong, then I'm like, well, I guess I have to play Yorick jungle now. And then I'm going to be, farming up my graves and walking around trying to put people in cages.
I mean, they did buff the move speed on his E. Take that to burst velocity. Maybe you're.
And the ghouls have a dash.
When you hit the E. Yeah, there you go. I can watch my ghouls having fun.
Yeah.
Jumping around. Exactly. Okay. You know what? Maybe I'll come around.
The 2 item changes I actually also think are pretty big. Rod of Ages and Umbral Glaive. Catalyst being Ruby Crystal, like double Ruby Crystal plus Sapphire, and it's 200 gold. So you can actually fit 2 rubies in instead of having the 600 gold combined with just 1 ruby and 1 sapphire. I actually think that's a significant buff. Makes the build path way nicer. It almost always feels horrible to build a sapphire crystal as like an item going back to lane, especially for top laners who like to build it. So the total cost is unchanged. The actual total mana on it goes up, and you get more mana back. Instead of 7% damage taken turns into mana, it goes to 10%. So Rod of Ages also got that buff too. So build path is better. You get more mana back. So I do think it could fit more easily in on some stuff. And also Umbral Glaive being 5 more AD, it costs 100 less. It's 2,500 gold item. I could see it being popular on some different champs. I immediately was thinking like, what does this change for champions like Kaisa? Like how quickly you can get Q evolve and stuff, right? If you have an Omega cheap item that's 55 AD, seems like it could be pretty good for some different things. So I was thinking that could be pretty cool. Also, obviously, Naafiri is all kind of just like rushing Eclipse from what I've seen. Eclipse into like kind of bruisery is mostly what I've seen. But Umbral could potentially function well on champions like that are kind of popular right now too. So I feel like both those could actually be impactful.
Yeah, I guess not that many people build Rod of Ages right now, but it definitely is more enticing after the change.
I mean, have you seen that Ahri build people are talking about?
Oh, God.
Tank Ahri.
Rod Leandries. I think if that works on Ahri, that's got to be playable on some other stuff to some degree.
That's all I see on Ahri now is the Tank Ahri.
Yeah, so I mean, that build, and then you're you're coming back to lane with 2 ruby crystals on your first spy. It's just goofy. Yeah, we'll see. We'll see.
I feel like Gragas doesn't build Roa, but Roa is like not bad on Gragas. It's just slow. So, and that's always been a champion that's kind of popular for pro. So maybe with double Ruby build and getting more mana back, maybe that feels more reasonable. I'm not sure. I almost always go tier when I play Gragas because I just feel like you are so mana hungry. But it could be interesting. Like it might just get shown up more, right? Like maybe on him, on Ari for sure. And yeah, like Meteos said, if it's working on Ari, maybe people are going to start doing it on more and more champions.
Yeah. The last thing I did want to touch on again, I kind of mentioned it a little bit earlier, but was the home guard and fountain changes. So I think that actually does affect like how pretty much everybody will play the game, reducing the home guard speed coming out early. But they actually made it so if you're recalling like super low and you need to wait the time to heal all the way up anyways, that buff on the missing health regeneration of fountain means you will get out even faster. So if you're thinking about it a lot more intentionally, and about like when you're going for big trades and when you're going to go for your recalls, then this could have like a significant effect on both jungles and laners. As far as the timing goes. And it's always things like this where, they're buffing some minion stats here or there, some minion, push speed here or there, some home guard stuff here and there. Or those recall timings, especially with like, in FlexU, I was playing a decent amount of Quinn with symbiotic souls and stuff. And so I was doing the spam recalls and like really making the most of all the super fast home guard coming out. So it's like a little tiny nerf to that Quinn just spam recall symbiotic play style there.
But at the same time, if you're getting more healing in the thing, you're probably, like you say, you're getting it on the map kind of similarly. Yeah. I feel like Symbi Souls, there is going to hit a point. I feel like they are OP. I think they're really OP. And I think that we are going to hit a point in pro, like I'm willing to bet over this year, where it just becomes spam and it has to get nerfed. Because I think that there are so many champions that are unexplored. Like Quinn is an obvious one, but any champion that can just essentially dump resources to get prio and then base, like it is good on. I was watching a Poppy one trick player who was doing this in 100% of their games. He just goes up, he just fights, like fist fights them with just Symbi Soul's first item every single game, shoves in the wave, always has prio, spam recalling. I recently saw a Rise player doing this, where the Rise player rushed Symbi Souls before like anything else, and then would just run to lane, dump 100% of the mana to insta one-shot the wave, but Symbi Soul base, and just spam did it, and basically like completely negated the early game weakness that Rise has, where you are low on mana until you're getting your Roa and your tier and everything, and it just felt like completely negated the laning phase. And so I feel like there has got to be more things. I think it was Fusion Saber. I also saw he did a post where he's spamming on Caitlyn every single game, and was like on this fat win streak on Caitlyn. And it's like, I don't know. I just think that they are really, really OP.
Yeah.
I think that you have to play the game in a different way to utilize it. It's about like, you have to get tons of recalls. So you just spam your resources, you recall, you reset. But I think it hasn't been experimented with enough. And I really strongly believe at some point this year, there's going to be a meta where people are just abusing the shit out of this in pro. People are going to like figure it out. And then it's going to have to be nerfed.
Yeah, and this nerf right here, which it does like nerf that playstyle, is very it nerfs that playstyle in a pretty minor way. Like it's only 10% early, and kind of scales there for the home guard speed.
And like you said though, if you're and you like if you're fully and like low health and you recall and you have to spend less time in the thing, like what would be the total return to time, to lane difference? Would it even be slower?
Well, it depends. It depends. So there's a gradient as far as how much time do you have to spend in the fountain now? Like how low are you recalling?
Exactly.
So you have to go and test it and be like, all right, my optimal, threshold past here after I'm, lower than 36.77.
But it sounds like it'd probably be pretty similar. Yeah. Right?
Well, yeah. I mean, it definitely, as long as you're not if you're recalling at full health, it's going to be slower for sure. And that's where some of them were. Especially all the Symbi strategy where you're spam recalling. But
yeah. And part of that I wonder is like, it must at least partially be due to all the nerfs on the other boots, right? Because the opportunity cost, ideally, with these is that you can't get Merc Treads.
Merc Treads cost 10,000 gold.
Yeah, exactly. And so it makes sense. Everything else has been nerfed so hard that this one hasn't. So people are going to lean toward it. They can make it more expensive. They could buff the other boots. But yeah, I definitely agree with what you're saying, though. I think it's kind of degenerate in a way, because it sort of like invalidates laning when you just spam push and recall.
Yep. It is definitely interesting, but we'll see. I mean, I like strategies like that when they're niche. I just feel like there's gotta be a way to abuse this on more champions to make it really, really popular. While we were recording this episode, LTA Fantasy actually just went live. It is live now on LTAFantasy.com. Sign up using your Riot login to compete. We are setting up a dive league, and we'll have the link in the description down below if you want to compete against me, Kobe, and Meteos, as well as the other dive fans. Our producer signed up too, so maybe you can blast him. Mark's gonna be in there. That one's going to be free to beat for sure. This split is an open beta, so let the LTA know your thoughts on it. We'll take any feedback, and we just did our draft actually, and we're going to let you know about it at the end of the episode.
Yep.
But now let's get into some of these week 1 matchups. Split 2 LTA, the real split 1 is coming out, and TL versus Fly kicking it off.
The real TL versus Fly.
Yeah, it's our finals rematch from the last real split, which was
moving along, baby. Let's see. Honestly, so one thing that we just had actually, which was the most like recent context to this rivalry. This rivalry is like budding, like epic rivalry in the LCS.
Just months ago, summer 2024, the finals.
I mean, it was pretty funny because, when we were checking in the last time, we were like, oh my God, it's almost 50% between the two teams. It's actually so close, and they played over 50 games versus each other with very similar rosters, because both of them brought the exact same rosters back from last year. So a lot of games played between these two exact rosters, and then even stretching further back than that. Like this matchup is certainly epic. The most recent installment, though, was the interview that Spawn gave, where he talked about, even after winning Split 1, or whatever you want to call it, the shadows of the past, the opening tournament of the LTA, he said that they don't even consider themselves actually the first team until they beat FlyQuest in a best of 5. Now, this is not a best of 5, but it goes to speak to the respect that TL have for FlyQuest and Spawn especially. They've always, especially since losing finals and the Minions fiasco and all that stuff, they really consider them to be one of the like final bosses that they still need to conquer. So super exciting matchup here. And honestly, I don't know if Team Liquid are going to be like filled with confidence coming back from first stand as far as a tournament. It's always hard when you go up against number 1 seeds from other regions, and it can like hamper your confidence sometimes, especially with all the controversy. I mean, not even controversy, just flame for Umpty going on, and even
it wasn't controversial. People agreed.
Oh man,
no, it's like,
oh god.
I mean, he talks about it a lot too. Very much like respect to Umpty. He takes it on, head on. And gave an interview himself talking about he's been working on a lot, and communication was something he mentioned in addition to his individual play. So maybe TL have been able to work specifically on the communication in addition to working on individual play. Because definitely some of the plays were not due to like comms with the rest of the team. It was individual stuff. So with all that, compared to FlyQuest, who were scrimming the entire time in Korea doing Korean solo queue, and they had like LS come in as a guest coach and try and give them some insights and some extra perspectives as well. I'm actually very curious to hear, since it's a best of 1, who you favor heading into this one, Meteos.
I would have to go with Fly. I just feel like one of the things that seems really relevant for me is the fact that lane swaps are kind of gone now. And I don't think TL, needs lane swaps, but they were kind of the lane swap team in the sense that they did it better than everyone else. So I think they won't have that advantage anymore. And it doesn't seem like they're a super dominant laning team in the first place. And like you mentioned, Umpty has been receiving a lot of criticism. And I think that as a jungler, in lane swaps, you're not really doing anything. You're just kind of clearing, mirroring the other jungler. But when it's standard lanes and, you know, you have to come up with creative plays and whatnot, I think that matters a lot. And I don't know. I'm not sure TL is going to be on FlyQuest level for that. I think that like we might see some cracks in their play.
You know what's really interesting? So this is why I was on my phone. I was trying to find this interview that I had seen. Bwipo did an interview with Naymen, like their podcast, and he actually ranked themselves as fourth. He said he thinks they're the fourth best team right now. I don't know if that's like
as a reverse psychology,
like a humble, I'm just a humble guy type thing, or if it was like a real belief. But it was interesting. You know, he said. You got to realize we're fourth place. We lost 100 Thieves. We had a lot of holes in that series, and we got exploited by a team that should have been worse than us. That by all means can be worse than us, but as of right now, I think they have a team plan. I think that's what we're really lacking. He said, I say team play, but I have a fundamental explanations for the struggles that we have. I say team play in interviews because obviously I don't want to dive deep into our team dynamic or the problems, but I think that's simply a bad ethic. So it was kind of interesting. That he was like ranking themselves that low, because usually he is like super confident, and I still think of them as the team that I'm expecting to be the best team, honestly. Yeah, they did lose, but it was like a best of 3 single limb, so to me that didn't really like shake my confidence in them too much, and just kind of what I've seen as far as their growth over the last year or two, and even just individually, I feel like they have one of, if not the best mid laner. I think they have the best jungler, and I think they have the best bot lane, so it's like they kind of should be still really damn good.
I feel like I'm a bit more on actually the Team Liquid side than both of you guys, even though I do want to add the extra context of Split 1. The one game that they did play versus TL, the little game at the very end, they did win, yet again, and they were able to, it was that Cassiopeia game that was so big for quad and looked like very impressive. I just feel like everyone has had this like magnifying glass on TL, critiquing TL for like the end of Split 1 as well as through First Stand. But I think with Spawn, like refocusing them back in on some of these issues that have come up, I feel like they might actually surprise people and kind of benefit from it. I feel like Umpty has been able to, bounce back in past times after pretty poor performances. And this is just the best of one. I would still say if I'm like looking towards the end of the split, maybe it's like it is worrisome. But if you're using the context of first stand, excuse me, I think I said last stand. First stand, the tournament, Impact was losing lanes by like 2,000 gold most games.
That was,
a lot
I think,
of matchups.
the worst performance of his whole career, like at an event.
But that does not happen in LTA. So I think some of the things that we have recently seen TL fail at won't be the case here in LTA. I mean, there's a chance that Bwipo, pops off. He actually had some really big carry top games towards the end of Split 1. But I don't think those same type of deficits will be there for TL. And as far as lane swaps being removed, Yannick or JJ to me are the best bottom lane in the league. I know we're going down the side there for FlyQuest, but I actually think TL have the best bottom lane in the league, and they play it very aggressively, and they're basically going to be locked in lane in 2v2. So yeah, it's going to depend on draft, but I could definitely see the world where Impact does not have a big deficit on top side like we saw at last First Stand, and then their bottom lane, they actually can play at their bottom lane, and they get big advantages there. So
yeah, I mean, it's a best of one. I would not be shocked at all if either team wins. But I think that like TL's issues that I saw in Split 1 and at First Stand are not so easy to fix. Like that's more my concern for the team. I still think they're going to be a really good team. I still think they're going to be, competing at the top. But I think that when you're talking about them throughout the split against a team like FlyQuest, how they would look against there, I do have concerns that impact, like can he change his champion pool, can he kind of fix those issues, or are they going to actually just like back off carries? Because traditionally his career hasn't been the case. I do think he has some really good carries in his pool, but like Rumble has always been one that he's really good at. GP's been one he's really good at. I don't know if that's really going to be the meta, because the meta still seems like it is like Ambessa and Jace and these champions that I think traditionally he has not looked as good at. Gwen is even better. I don't think he looked really bad on Gwen. His Jax, I don't think, to me, has been one of his best champions. So it's like, if that remains the meta, I think that is a harder problem to fix, because that has been not his strong suit throughout his entire career. And it feels like my idea of the solution has always been just go and focus on expanding your pool on the things that you are so good at, but it never feels like that's what he's interested in doing. So I think that is a big question. I think has had these similar performance issues for quite a while now, right? Like I do think he has those bounce back games, and even at first stand, he had some really good games, like his Nocturne game. He absolutely super gapped Yike in that one. So it's not like he never has good games, but I do think that is kind of a concern.
He's definitely a weak point and has made some errors.
Yeah,
but I'm glad that you mentioned that he had, even during these times where he's receiving a lot of criticism.
He's had some really good ones.
Yeah, some of the games are not, this big.
And APA was the other thing where I think, again, he had some really good games. Like his Talia, I think, was nasty and stuff. But I feel like, again, the sample size isn't that big, but across first stand and split one, I feel like he looked less consistent than he did last year, which is why I'm more concerned than normal, because lane swap, the stylistically isn't as good for them. Team fighting, I think, is one of the things that they're not quite as at the same level as some of the other top teams. And even talking to Spawn, he thinks they're like not as good at team fighting as some of these other teams. He had always said that it was like their map play was better. Mechanically, some of these other teams like are better. So I feel like the style, like just the game has shifted in a way where it's all team fights all the time. That hurt them. Lane swaps are worse. Impact and APA, I think, are more looking like they are more of a weakness than they were last year. And so even though I think Jan is godlike and I think Core is playing really well, like I think they're super strong. Me saying I think FlyQuest bot lane is the best in the league, to me, is not a knock on them, because I think both these bot lanes are nasty.
Yeah.
And I think Jan is actually the best AD. I just think that Maso and Busio, to me, and from talking to a lot of pros, they kind of just like make less mistakes. And though Core and Jan, I think all the pros I've talked to say that they're the best at the really hardcore, super aggressive early stuff, I feel like that often is less the meta, and they seem to be like really consistent, which is something that I prize a lot. But I think both teams have incredible bot lanes, and I'm just more worried about TL's solos and MT's inconsistencies.
Yeah, I definitely see the biggest gap being mid and jungle. I think that like Quad and Inspired are just playing so well, and TL's mid jungle are, I wouldn't say bad, but inconsistent.
Yeah,
like
inconsistent.
They have some good games, but they also have some games you wouldn't expect from a team that just won a split. So yeah, we'll see. But I would definitely favor Fly. Maybe not heavily though, because in a best of one, it can come down to draft, start of split. People don't always have priorities on certain champs. Maybe one team just gets like a Thanos draft without realizing it. So,
or just TL just plays a good game. I mean, TL is fully capable of beating this team. Like they obviously could beat them. I'm just like, when I'm talking about it, I'm trying to evaluate more for the whole split, not for a single best of one. And the other thing I will say, to be fair, is that it's like for FlyQuest, I think Bwipo has showed some of those inconsistencies too, right? Where like he has these monster games, but then he also has like monster feed games and stuff, and he is playing kind of that high variant style. And I love watching his stream, but he's kind of the same when you watch him stream too in solo queue and stuff. Like he always goes for these really risky plays, and if it works out, he looks incredible and he's like stomping the game. But he also has those ones where it's like he's riding that line and it goes the other way and he dies, and then he dies again and then he dies again, and it's like, so it definitely, both teams have their things, and we can't ignore the fact that even though I still look at FlyQuest as an incredibly strong team, they did lose their best of three, and they did get knocked out. Yes, it was single MBO3, not the biggest sample size, but they lost, right, fair and square.
Yeah, I guess I just because at our preseason power rankings at the beginning of split one, like we all had FlyQuest number one, or Meteos had Cloud9, but ours were basically, I also had FlyQuest as number one heading into the split.
Yeah, we had the exact
but
same.
Not only did FlyQuest lose 200 Thieves, they also lost to Cloud9 in the best of three, and I just kind of made an adjustment kind of accounting for some of the like split one stuff that I think was at the time for me unexpected, but became really impactful. And like one of them, it's not necessarily for this matchup, but I thought that Quid was actually the best mid in the entire LTA, and Quad was still good, but more like pretty good like team fighting.
More of an I than
less,
an A kind of guy.
Yeah. Wait, what?
Wow.
More
Quid
than
versus Quad.
yeah.
You made that sound like that was an
Smart.
expression.
At first I default.
I don't know. It just popped in my head.
The funny thing is, we're always like, oh yeah, I default to like yes and to trust. I'm like, yeah, and then I'm like, wait a second, what did he say?
Yeah, and what the?
Regardless,
Yeah.
all 4 of their top 4 teams, like you're saying, in the best of 1, any of them for sure can beat any of the
Makes
other
it
ones.
exciting, right?
Listening to the pros episode that Jat just did that just came out yesterday too, was all of the players on the 4 teams also feel that way. So it makes it incredibly exciting that we have this like top 4 kind of juggernauts at the league that can all push each other and can all win these games. So that's why the best of ones are going to be super exciting, and they're like primed for overreactions because like especially like if Umpty has a bad game or something, people are just gonna go freaking wild on
Or
him.
Umpty has a good game.
Or Umpty has
back.
a good game. Then he gets gets his defense up there.
I mean, I hope TL proves me wrong. Like, I hope that APA and Impact play really well, and that Umpty can level up, and that they're just like a behemoth, because you want all these teams to be good. That's like all I want, is all our teams to be good and competitive, and send the teams that are going to do great internationally, right?
Yeah.
So I'm hoping for it.
Did just some more of the like out of game context, because like we haven't had any recent games for this, but did you saw the like little video that Team Liquid put out that had the very small
Yon,
confrontation between APA and Yon, where they're talking about the champ pool and pick? I saw people like really overreacting to that. Where
that was the like Ziggs thing.
it was where after the game, Yon was complaining about.
Was the Ziggs thing?
It was.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was him complaining about not having the like 1v9 hard carry. Like he asked for a 1v9 to the coach or whatever, and then APA was like off to the side, but was listening, and then it was like, hey, why didn't you say anything in Champ Select then? You're just quiet, and basically like called him out for that. But then like Jan gave an interview later where he's talking about, well, of course, like the context of my previous conversation with the coach isn't included in this, and neither APA or Jan, felt like this was a big thing at all. But of course, there's going to be a bunch of fans anytime something like that happens that are overreacting. And
yeah, I mean, I think you could go on any team ever and find moments that
Way
make
worse.
it seem like a hostile environment or toxic or whatever. But obviously, some people could be toxic, but most of the time it's like discussions can get heated, or people can get frustrated, and that's totally fine. It's definitely good to bring issues up like that, because I think what's even worse is if everyone's just like too scared to step on each other's toes, and people don't say what they think, and you just end up with this like really, really horrible team play because you're too worried to like bring up what you think is an issue, because you might hurt someone's feelings. So I think it's way better, just confront it. Be like, if someone's not speaking up, like if Jan's not saying it during the game, like I think it is good for APA to call it out. It's like, say what you think. Like don't just not talk and then expect it to get solved.
I mean, in that situation, I was fully on APA's side. It's like you can't say nothing when you're picking your champion and then complain about it after the game and say, well, I didn't even want to play that. It's like, well, bro, you got to say something before we do it then, right? And I can see both sides, right? Because I think that AP is fully in the right in that situation, but also when I was watching the game, I was like, what the hell are we doing giving Ziggs to Jan and having like the best Ziggs player, this guy that everyone describes as just like a Ziggs freak, not playing Ziggs, and our player who was like giga smurfing on ADs, not playing the 1v9 champ. But also, Jan should have spoken up in that thing. And I was surprised too, at how people had like kind of a bigger reaction to that. Some people, wow, it's so toxic and this and that, and like, oh, Jan's a terrible teammate and this kind of stuff. And I was also surprised when I guess it was last year at Worlds, when it was like the Spawn, Core JJ, kind of intense talk or whatever, and people like, whoa, Spawn, like so hardcore, like so kind of like toxic or whatever, the reactions to that. I was like, what do people think are some of these discussions? Like, it's not all going to be sunshine and rainbows. And I didn't think in either of those cases, people were like, there was no personal attacks. There was no like hateful stuff or like calling each other idiots or like anything like that. And to me, those were just like the tough discussions and people being frustrated and emotions are going to be high. Think about how frustrated you get sometimes losing a really annoying solo queue game. This is 1,000 times worse. This is your whole life. You're working towards these moments and you have these opportunities and then you feel like, we should have won this game and that could change the whole trajectory of the tournament. That could change the whole trajectory of your career or your reputation or whatever. It's like, it's fully understandable that emotions are running high, in those situations. So I don't think everything needs to be handled completely like perfectly. But I didn't think either of those situations were a big deal. And I think it's good. Like you said, Meteos, people need to call each other out to hold each other accountable and also to fix problems. Otherwise, it doesn't advance.
I mean, APA also answered one of the questions I thought was cool in his interview where someone directly asked him about Umpty, and he was like, I think APA said, I think no one on our team is replaceable and everyone's, adding things that the fans can't see and providing value and stuff. But then I thought it was funny. Spawn gave a follow-up interview where he was like, well, actually, I don't agree with that. Anyone on he said anyone on our team is technically replaceable, evaluating performance and all that stuff. But, I think
there's power hungry coaches.
Yeah. I mean, I would kind of agree with that to ever say like, it's probably not a good attitude to everyone have like, oh, I'm not replaceable. Cause then you could lose like hunger or drive, for it.
And we've seen a million examples. Everyone in every league on every team is replaceable.
All right. Next matchup we got though, the Dignitas versus Shopify Rebellion.
Mm-hmm.
We're just going in chronological order here. These are the Saturday games following the TL FlyQuest opener. These are now we're getting some of the teams that we haven't seen in quite a while here.
We get the Seos debut,
Yep.
which I think I'm pretty excited about. We get a Brazilian player here who's considered by some of the best player, CB Law history and all that sort of stuff. A lot of people have really hyped him up to me. He was here during Split 1, but I guess I don't know if it was a visa issue or whatever it was. Like for whatever reason, he wasn't able to play yet. So he's going to make his debut. That I think is really exciting to see how they look, because that's the first time we actually get to see this team now has had time to practice together. How good are you going to be? Because that's going to answer a lot of questions. And definitely for teams like this, there's going to be massive overreactions one way or the other. If you look bad, everyone's going to think you're garbage. If you look really good, hey, maybe they're going to win the split, right? And so I think it's going to be fun.
Yeah, I think these... there's a pretty big distinction between top 4 and bottom 4 in LTA right now. And I think the bottom 4 is going to be harder to predict, but I'm kind of, optimistic about Dig. I think that they didn't really get that great of a shot in Split 1 to show anything because obviously the big storyline for Dig is Surdy, right? He's this incredible solo queue player who's super hungry coming into the pro scene. And when you watch his games, it was actually so tragic for him that he's just being lane swapped on every game. He's a lot of games he's just getting really, really behind due to that. And so he's not actually able to, show off any of the things that make him good. And so I think we're going to see a lot more of that. As Azael was mentioning, the top lane meta is all of these fighter high skill champions, and ideally you should be able to get an actual lane for at least the first few minutes, not be critically behind.
3 minutes of fun as a top laner.
Okay, well, it is a huge difference because at least you won't be 3 levels down on the entire game for the whole game.
Yeah.
So I think that's a big deal. And they also will have their jungler
the whole time.
They'll have Shaden. They won't have no Flame to Lyra. But he's been out the game, and it looked like it when he played. So, having their whole team being able to play the game normally, I think is going to be a huge, huge benefit for them. That being said, I I don't know about their bottom lane.
Yeah.
From what we saw on Tomo and especially Isles, like I'm not too sure where to rank them. It doesn't seem like they're like the powerhouse bot lane. So
I mean, it's let's be real. Like it's probably them and DSG's bot lane that are, I think, the two worst in the league.
yeah, maybe, could be. So we're gonna have to see there. I'm not sure. Maybe they'll struggle with Seos.
I also think Kaney has really good potential.
He's gonna surprise people, I think.
So like he already was showing some really good, like he had some really good individual plays. So I think like that could be another point of pressure on Shopify, because Shopify, they say themselves, coaching staff talking about we're supposed to operate with Palafox and contracts being our playmakers, being the ones that are aggressive and ahead, mid jungle synergy. And so if you put a lot of pressure on mid and you put a lot of pressure on Palafox, that kind of like deconstructs the game plan of how Shopify see themselves of playing these games. And like if Shaden is playing well, that very well could be a Dignitas way into it too. That's not even like just a Surdy angle for them. Maybe like the whole top side of the map, including jungle and mid, could be a big thing. And so then it would become this like top side of the map versus bottom side of the map on opposite sides of the teams, and
Playing was good last year.
playing to which side is going to be it, because for Shopify side, B-Voy for sure is super big. And as much as people have seen some really bad games from Contracts and Palafox, we also saw the really good games. So, and especially in a best of one, the variance factor here is going to be huge.
I mean, I just think for Shopify to have a really good split, you need Contracts and Palafox to be good. I think that's kind of the reality. Like you mentioned it, I talked to their coach before the split one, and yeah, that was basically what he told me was like, we got Fudge and B-Voy to be these like stable bot lanes that are going to scale well and perform in fights. And Contracts and Palafox are, these tools that are supposed to be able to like create action and make the plays happen. And you can't do that if you're losing, right? Like you can't make good plays happen generally if you're losing. Like you need to be playing, from ahead, and you need to be playing from point of power where you're like really working well together and you're able to, start fights and create skirmishes and make things happen for them. Because otherwise, if you're top and bot lane are just going to be like, stay back and farm and scale type style, like as he described them, and your mid and jungle are losing, well, then you become like a do nothing and lose team, right? So I do think Contracts and Palafox are going to be really, really important to the success of this team. And so it'll be interesting to see how they do. And also, how Seos works with B-Voy, because B-Voy I think was really, really good. Like he's one of those guys when he came in last year, really impressed me. And some of the bot laners were talking about him as, one of the best bot laners in the league, which I thought was cool. So if Seos can work well with him, maybe that gives them kind of like a new point of power. But definitely agreed. I'm excited for Surdy. I thought even with lane swap stuff, he had some really bright spots in split one, and really interested to see how he can perform, because he's a super, super exciting prospect. Next matchup we got here is 100 Thieves versus Cloud9. Another one of the clash of those top four.
Wait, we didn't predict the outcome of the last one. So we did all the predictions on the first one. I feel like we just.
I'm on Dig. I'm
Dig.
Yeah, I like Dig's whole top side of the map, to be honest.
Yeah, I mean,
Fudge did not have a good split one, but it's 2 weeks or whatever.
Yeah, I think it's too hard before we get data with Seos being here. Like maybe the team looks completely different. Because to me, supports completely change how your team looks. It's not just bottom lane. It's so much for your jungle. Like support is so OP, and the eyes of junglers, like it's. I swear to God, it is so OP, and it just makes the hugest difference. So,
so who you picking?
I'm gonna pick Dignitas until I see the actual data.
So you see how OP Seos is or is not.
Yeah, exactly. For Shopify, I want to see how much this team has changed. I think by default, I'm going to start out on the Dignitas side and predict Dig also. So I guess we're all in agreement on that one. A little dissenting on the first one, but for the 100 Thieves Cloud9 one, I think we might be dissenting as well. This is going to be a super banger. Day number one, we start out with the TL FlyQuest, and we follow up We're gonna have a 100 Thieves Cloud9. We're gonna get all of our top 4 clashing against each other, the big bangers. 100 Thieves, they did beat Cloud9 in the tiebreaker game that we had in Split 1. It's just one individual game. But then you also remember they beat them last year for the world spot too. So they're putting together a little string of organization rivalry here, little victories.
I think 100 Thieves has absolutely been getting a lot more credit because, for a while it was kind of like, I think people were sleeping on him, weren't even putting him top 4 coming into the split. And I remember you mentioned what Golden Glue said, being like, we're actually good. And I'm definitely believing it now. I think that, especially with FBI and their team, they're looking so good. I don't think it's really a fluke at this point. I think that they could be, first place team. That being said, I am really high on Cloud9 right now, obviously. I mean, not even hashtag ad or anything, but but I don't know. I think Cloud9 is just really, really good. I have a little inside info from talking to the players and whatnot. But I know they boot camp
Games are going well. Can't wait for stage.
So
exactly, we've won 120% of our scrims. But I think that it could go either way for sure. But Cloud9 had the Korean boot camp. I think that they've just been doing really well, and so
you're leaning them.
I think so.
It's funny because I was thinking about this one when we were heading into it too, and I was like, you know what? That was a similar story to how we started Split 1 because Cloud9 did boot camp in Korea. Like they were one of the teams where I was like, oh, they're going to come out with they're going to be really hot. Come out with a lot of synergy. They were just practicing a whole bunch in Korea, and so now they kind of repeated that process, and so. They kind of doubled down on it, but there's a couple of key factors. Well, there's 3 things to me that really were impactful in Split 1 and boosted me up from being very optimistic about 100 Thieves to actually having confidence in them. You mentioned one of them, which was the FBI edition. That edition worked so well, better than I think anyone even thought it was going to.
They have a real
work.
secondary carry.
Yeah, both in game as well as they always talk about him uplifting the mood and being a shot caller, which I think is still one of the things this team desperately needs some improvements in their macro and decision making. They're really good at fighting, but some of the lane assignments and how they play split push and stuff still needs a little work. The 2 other things. Ayla was way better than I thought he was going to be. Also, Ayla was way better. I still think he needs to improve a little bit in getting vision for the team, which is going to be one of the steps to improving their macro. I feel like he does not take the opportunities to get the deep vision during the safe timings moving with River, and sometimes does it during a risky timing or just doesn't do it at all, and then they don't have the deep vision to make their decision with. But he was way better than I estimated him to be. And then I mentioned at the beginning of the episode, but freaking Quid I think is the best mid laner in the whole league. He was insane individually, in the team play, in every kind of matchup, and it's not even gonna show as much in the best of ones. But in addition to, I think, being the best mid laner in the league, I think he's also the very best at Fearless because his champion pool is so deep. He already uses all the melee counter picks and played Scion mid, Aatrox mid. I feel
it's going to be huge for the best of ones.
Yeah, it's going to be huge for this one. But
Fearless best
looking down the line, since we're going to get into best of 3s and then a full double elimination best of 5 playoff format, these are the things that moved me from, like I said, being optimistic to actually being having confidence in this team. I still, like I said, have the worries of a bit of macro as well as Sniper underperformed my expectations. There were some overperformances, but he was a little bit under. He still got some solo kills, but definitely had.
I think Sniper's going to get turbo gapped by Thanatos. Honestly,
yeah.
If I was ranking all the roles, I think Thanatos, the difference between him and Sniper is going to be so big that I actually think Loki might struggle against Quid. I think Quid's I agree with you. He's been playing so well, but I don't know. I think that top gap's going to be huge.
I could definitely see it, but at the same time, I feel like Sniper's strength had kind of more been his laning phase, right? So I don't know. I was definitely disappointed with how he looked in split 1 because I did think he had a really like a big regression from what we saw last year. But at the same time, I'm optimistic they can get back to where he was last year and hopefully get progress from that, continue to improve, and then they would be like a really insane team. Because I think 100 Thieves have made some pretty big improvements, and FBI I just feel like deserves so much credit.
I worry about Sniper's confidence because in a lot of the interviews that he gives, it's like I feel like it's kind of coming from a place of humility where he's saying like, yeah, my team just carries me, but I don't think that's a good way to think about it because like you should know that like you're part of the team too. Like you got to have confidence in yourself. Say like we're a really good team. Don't exclude yourself unless you actually don't have confidence in your ability, which is not a good thing as a player.
I know I do think he still has some confidence. I mean, I don't know 100%, but like I've talked to him a bit, and when they were going into the finals and after they lost finals, he was saying like he really truly believed that they were going to win, right? Like he felt that they were going to win. And obviously they got 3-0'd by TL, but those were some monster throws. And to me, that more showed whether it's like nerves or an experience or whatever it was, but they were up, 2.5 or 3K in both games 2 and game 3 and had like a horrible team fight and then just kind of like full through the whole game. And game 1 was pretty close and the same kind of thing happened. So I feel like they've shown me enough in split 1 that I feel like they can really be competitive. I think this is a really tough matchup to predict though. I mean, I think jungle is close. I think mid lane is 100 Thieves favored. I think top lane is definitely heavily C9 favored. But I also feel like FBI Ayla looked better than Sven Vulcan, right? So I think it then kind of comes down to like who's going to show up more, on the day and like who's going to be playing better as a team. I think Cloud9 looked really strong, but I can honestly see this one going either way. I think this one's so hard to predict.
We're going to say that so much with all our matchups for the top 4 teams.
I felt more confident about like, well, it's a best of 1, right? But like when I'm like power ranking a team, if I'm like looking at week 1 and I'm saying FlyQuest versus TL, I still felt confident that I think at the end of the split, FlyQuest I think will be the better team. I think it'll be within the same margin, but this one I honestly have no clue. I could flip a coin. I feel like this is the.
I'm going 100 Thieves.
Okay.
I think I'll go C9, but I think it's really really close. I think it's gonna be a fun week 1.
Yeah.
We've got one more matchup here. This is gonna be rounding out the first week. Is Lyon versus DSG.
Yeah, these teams didn't get to play a lot. Well, Lyon didn't get to play a lot, I guess.
DSG was also, they were the 2 first teams out, I believe, right? Because DSG lost to Dignitas in the lower bracket.
Yeah, you're right.
So
yeah, we didn't see much from either of these teams.
Yeah.
So that's definitely going to make it hard to predict.
Lyon has Lions in person, which is who is their support. So that's obviously really nice for them.
Yeah, playing remote for those stage games is so bad. Like, there's the ping, there's just everything. It is not ideal, absolutely. I don't know. I don't even know where to start with this one. I think that...
Go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say, like, my gut tells me Lion's probably the stronger team. I think, like, Licorice is solid. And then looking at DSG from last season, like, they've got Scary Jerry in there who is, like, really, really fresh. He did not look good last split. And I don't want to be too hard on him, obviously, because it's, like, his first time in the league, and that kind of thing can happen. But, yeah, we're going to need to see some, like, crazy glow-up from him.
Yeah.
Because if not, then I fear they're going to be bot-gapped hard.
I mean, Senna and Saint and Henna. Yeah, I combined them. Saint and Henna, I think, are legitimately really good. Like Henna, he's already like a solid tier 1 level player. I think he should be considered to be way better than Scary Jerry. And if he plays to his level, he could be, one of the better ADs in the league. I think that could be something pretty big for them. Saint, I think the question is like, what is his development going to be like? Because he was actually, way more hyped of a prospect than Loki was, and way, way, way more hyped of a prospect than Quid was. And like we saw, where Quid went, Loki is obviously looking really good. So I think there's so much of a question of like, what kind of player will he turn into? Because if Saint turns into Quid or even better than Quid, then like the team's really good all of a sudden, right? Like all of a sudden you have some really strong carries, maybe you have a tabletop side. Maybe that makes the team like a bit more of a competitor. But I do think there's a lot of question marks around this team. on paper, I think Lyon has a way better roster. I just don't have a lot of faith in DSG carries. And I really struggle when I see a team where I'm like, who carries this team, to find myself predicting for them at the pro level. I just feel like so many team fights come down to like, how good is your mid laner? How good is your ADC? Right. And it's like, yes, your support sets them up. Yes, your jungler and your top laner, like it all matters a tremendous amount. But at the end of the day, it's like, how many games do you think Scary Jerry and Abadaga are going to like get you across the finish line? And that's my big concern. If one of them really performs better than I'm expecting, then hey, like I could really be wrong about DSG. But like that is why I struggle to see this team not being bottom of the league, is I just don't have confidence in either of their carries. And at the end of the day, most games, unless you stomp, come down to performing in a team fight, and like 80 carry mid almost always are the most important in a team fight. If your AD mispositions and dies, if he's standing too far back and not hitting when you engage, if you're, things like that, it's just like, I feel like that decides so many games.
Here's the other perspective on this matchup on Lions is that on paper, a lot of like that is all true. However, one of the biggest things that they said themselves, and we got comms listen-ins from their games, and it turned out to be seemed very, very true for this Lions team. They have a very difficult time communicating and coordinating in game, and we would see it like in their team fights, going from different sides, going on different priority targets, and the language barrier is really difficult to overcome. So on paper, I'm like, yeah, 100% agree. That's true. Where it gets really interesting for this matchup, I think that like the coordination and the comms for this team is not an easy solve, because you can't instantly even though you're like, all right, well, we just got to get some baseline terminology, and as long as we can try and use pings and like get down like when to fight or when not to fight.
You have a Canadian, someone from Peru, someone from Argentina, and 2 Koreans.
Yeah, and they don't have like the bridge of like everyone having good English on this team, so you can't just like bridge that way, which sometimes can be a natural bridge for teams like that. So that's like my main like hiccup and like wild card in this matchup, is because it's like, well, I also would say Saint and Henna are definitely better carries than Abadaga and Scary Jerry.
But they can't understand each other.
But like coordination
use pings. You don't need it.
Coordination is a really big thing. Your carries,
yeah.
If the carries cannot coordinate with utility players, then you look way worse.
Yep.
You look way, way, way worse. And it'll sometimes be a situation even where people are like, oh man, your positioning was so bad in that fight. And then the carry's like, well, like, my support is supposed to take the, skill shot for me right here. Like, that's the only reason I died. I was able to get, XX damage or whatever, how you'll be able to play that. And so that's like the confounding factor in this matchup here, this formula. So one of the things I'm looking forward to in Split 2 is to see, one, how much work Disguise have been able to do to improve their team play, but also how much work they've been able to do to just improve their coordination. Yeah. So I feel like the potential is definitely there, but especially even though they've had extra time, we're still very early. And it's just the beginning, best of ones in the in the split. So I could definitely see.
It's very relatable, because when you're playing solo queue, these people definitely cannot read, definitely not able to communicate with them.
Or they intentionally, do the opposite of what you say, because they're angry.
Yo, let's do this dragon. Yeah. Rage splits up. Yeah.
Type of thing. So yeah,
Are we all Lion then?
It's a hard one. I think I'm gonna default to that side, but if we're looking at XU playing with Castle, I think they had a lot of really good combination plays for them. Man, I think coming down to Scary Jerry did not output a lot of damage for sure.
In fact, outputted very little damage.
Yeah, it really
when it was looking at the stats, it was
eventually
crazy.
you're going to have to have a straight up 5-on-5, and if Lions just get there ahead of time, then I feel like, and you're just like staring at each other, there's not a lot of like the coordination is going to be as big of an issue. So
yeah, I mean, I don't want to pile on the guy, but to me, Scary Jerry probably looks like the weakest player in the league right now. So I think if as your AD carry, that's a really tough thing to overcome. But maybe they'll do it.
Yeah, and
All right.
it's also one of those things where, hey, maybe with given a little bit more time, he's going to have that additional comfort level, because I do think he was better than that in NACL. So it's going to be an exciting week number 1. Before we close out the show, though, we're going to talk a little bit more about fantasy. Again, I already talked about it earlier, but if you didn't hear that, it is now live, LTA Fantasy. You can go to ltafantasy.com. You can make your team. Kobe made a dive league. So we're going to have
the
that
link in the comments.
Exactly. We're going to have the link in the comments. Y'all can join up and see if you guys can beat us. Basically, the TLDR and how the fantasy works is you got $50, 50 gold, whatever, and each player has a price point. And so you basically make the best team that you can do. We decided to do LTA North players only. And you can choose LTA North or South. You can do whatever combination you want, but we decided it'd be fun to do LTA North only. And, the players' prices are based on essentially how many fantasy points they would have earned in split 1.
Yeah, it's how much Mark values them, as individuals, as humans,
His
as
personal
spirits.
view on
it's,
them.
It's really
Didn't say hi to him in the hall.
Yes.
That's their deduction.
$1.
It's Mark Z's view of you. So if you've ever wondered, your value,
What does he think about you?
and you don't think that someone could,
LTAfantasy.com.
you don't think someone could put a label on the value of a human? Well, Mark Z can.
Mark's done it.
Mark has.
He managed to.
Apparently
he
he did.
cracked the code. It's a shame we don't have Austin there.
I actually was the next step. I was like, can I put myself into Mark Z's formula to
Yeah.
see how much he thinks of me?
Plug it in.
Yeah.
See what you're worth.
I don't know if I want to know.
It's true. Some questions are better left unanswered.
Maybe it's better left unanswered. The other thing is that his evaluation of everyone does change week to week, which is like the unique thing, right? So your gold value is
What have
gonna
you done
change.
for Mark lately?
Yeah, exactly. So if you see your value low, then maybe go suck
You
up
bring him his favorite coffee?
go suck up the mark for a
Up the
little bit,
charts.
then you go up. But it has implications for us if we want to change our rosters. If Cloud9 has a really difficult matchup coming up or something, and theoretically, if one of us had a lot of Cloud9 members on our team and they wanted to change the map,
I was gonna take all of them, but I didn't have enough money.
Yeah. But if you draft players week 1
Yeah.
that are worth a little, and then they have a really good week, their value goes up. And then, as Mark explained to me, you can then sell those players and you have more money. So
Yeah.
your net worth.
or you could
goes
hold
up.
on to them and just hold on to the high value player, having only paid an initial low fee
Yep.
to get them.
Yeah, totally. But I mean, there's a lot of ways you can do it, so it'll be interesting. I think we probably ended up with similar-ish drafts. I'm not sure.
I mean, they're looking different. Nobody's the exact same.
I
Read
will
'em off.
say Cloud9 players were pretty value. I don't know, at least I thought. So I went. I'll go bot to top. I went. My bot lane is Isles Masu. I have Loki, Thanatos, and then Inspired.
I got Jan, Thanatos, Loki, Contracts, and Ayla.
Okay. I just went down the list, grabbing C9 players. I went Thanatos, Blabber, Loki, Sven, and then I ran out of money for Vulcan.
So why do you hate Vulcan? Why is he your least favorite C9 player?
He didn't say hi to me one time in solo queue, and he inted me.
That's fair.
No, but I got Lions for support because that's how much money I had left. But I also,
That was also my logic for drafting Isles. I'm not gonna.
He's playing against Disguise this week, so I think
Yeah.
there's a good chance he pops off.
Good value proposition.
So I actually redistributed my wealth because I saw at the end I also left support for last, and I was like, I only have $4
you
left.
couldn't afford any support.
There was no support that's only worth 4 gold. By the way, there are people of other roles that are worth 4 gold, or maybe even some that are less. And I got one of them. Big value pick, by the way. So I redistributed my gold in order to get Ayla, because if you look at the scoring, which is a big part of how you win fantasy,
Yep.
it's not just like, oh, who do you think is actually the
See
best
this
player?
under settings, or wait, is it no rules?
Yeah, you go to settings, and then there's a rules
Settings,
tab
rules.
in the settings, and you can look at that. So there are a lot of points for like team-based objectives, and you get points for kills as well as assists, even though you get deducted for deaths. It is generally better to get players on teams that are high action and combined kills per minute. Obviously as well to get successful teams so you can get the bonuses of objectives and stuff. But that's why I redistributed so I could get Ayla, because I feel like 100 Thieves were the bloodiest team in the whole world. So while I did have some of the Cloud9 members, I also, prioritizing 100 Thieves and Team Liquid players where I could get them to kind of index into that.
Yeah, we also you pick a champion for each player. I think, is it every day you switch it?
Every week, I believe you switch
Every
it.
week?
Yeah.
Okay. So you try to predict who your player is going to play, and if they pick that champion, then you get extra points. So that's kind of fun.
Also, top 100 players at the end of each split from each conference league get Spirit Blossom skins. So you can earn Spirit Blossom skins. It's Yone for the North and Yasuo for the South, which is kind of cool. And obviously, you just sign up and stuff with just your league account through this. So it's pretty easy to sign up and everything. One thing I will say, I remember when we played Fantasy before, is that often teams that play really long games are also really OP, like more so than just even combined kills per minute, because it's just like, if you just play 45-minute games, you get a lot of dragons. Dragons are worth money. Like turrets are often worth money and like all these things. So it'll be interesting to see how it goes. I kind of like when I play Fantasy, honestly, I kind of like just picking what I think is just what would be the best team in real life. You know what I mean? Like that I could make more so than gamifying it, but I don't know. It can be.
I don't know if you'll win doing that.
I don't know if I'll win
gamify a little bit.
Yeah, might have to. We'll see. But it should be fun. So if you guys want to join in on that, definitely use the link below. Join in and check out some LTA Fantasy. We're pretty excited about it. I know a lot of fans have been asking for Fantasy Leagues to come back, and they are back. But that is going to do it for this episode of The Dive. We are very, very excited to kick off split number 2. Finally, League of Legends is back. It feels like it's been a while. And remember, if you're watching us on YouTube, hit that subscribe button so you do not miss an episode of The Dive driven by Kia. You can also check us out on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. The LTA starts this Saturday, April 5th, 1 p.m. Pacific. TL takes on Fly.